Hello everyone, welcome back to Unraveling Politics, a show where I discuss the political news of the week and provide my analysis in a way you can understand. First of all, I am recording this episode a week in advance, and there has already been some uncertainty about whether Speaker Johnson will be re-elected. By now, you're going to know if he's been re-elected, or if he's being tossed for somebody else, or if they're still deciding who's going to be Speaker. Today, though, January 6th is an important day. It's a day that people didn't know much about until the last election, the certification of the Electoral College. Assuming that everything goes smoothly and there's a speaker that is re-elected, whether that be Johnson or somebody else, today is the day Congress will confirm that Donald Trump will become president in just 2 weeks, on January the 20th. Now, I've thought this process was pretty stupid considering the Electoral College has already elected Trump. They picked him in December, but that's not the point of this episode. Trump will be confirmed as president by Congress, and he will take the oath of office on January the 20th, no matter what happens. Even if the certification is delayed, as it was in 2021, it wasn't certified until the wee hours of the morning on January 7th, by the way, it will happen. The reason I'm putting so much emphasis on this is because outlets like the Daily Beast released a headline that said, MAGA crisis could mean there is no Trump inauguration on January 20th. I will go into the article, but you have to give them your email address or pay up to read it, which I'm not going to do that. However, I already know what it says, and it basically says that if Trump isn't certified on January 6th, it's because the House has no speaker, then Trump doesn't become president. Obviously, this is ludicrous. The Speaker of the House would become president on January 20th once Biden's term expires, and then the president pro tempore would become the acting president. And then there would still be a Republican president, and then they would work it out from there. I'm pretty sure that would be the president pro tempore would be Chuck Grassley, who's Iowa senator. He's 91 years old. We would have a 91-year-old acting president. Yay! Anyway, that's all hypothetical. The point of this episode is about what will Trump do on his very first day in office, as you've read in the title. Obviously, he ran on many things in the election, like lowering energy bills, cutting energy bills in half, lowering grocery bills, mass deportations, tariffs, tax cuts, etc. But what can he do on his first day and in his first week? Well, there's not that much. There are things he can set into motion, but actual final policy decisions, not so much. For example, in his 2017, during his first week in office, he signed the following executive orders. He authorized federal agencies to waive, defer, grant exemptions from, or delay the implementation of any part of the Affordable Care Act that fiscally burdens states or costs money for individuals, healthcare providers, and a host of other things. He formalized his cabinet nominations and signed any necessary waivers, sometimes it's necessary. For example, one of Biden's cabinet appointees needed a waiver because he was technically ineligible. It was approved by Congress, not a big deal. Congress would then approve it. Considering as long as it's not a crazy request, should be bipartisan. If that does happen this time. He will also issued the 2-for-1 rule, which required for every two federal regulations to be removed in order to implement a new one. This was overturned by President Biden in 2021. In later days, he issued a memorandum to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was never enforced anyway since Congress didn't approve it. In a nod to abortion activists, he instated a Reagan-era policy called the Mexico City Policy that prevents non-governmental organizations from receiving funds if they promote or perform abortions. This was also overturned by Biden. He implemented a hiring freeze for civilian employees, except for the military. That doesn't include, because the military aren't civilian. He also allowed the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL Pipeline. The Dakota Access Pipeline was built and the Keystone XL Pipeline was canceled by Biden. He hired an additional 10,000 ICE officers and told the Homeland Security Secretary to withhold grant money from sanctuary cities. Perhaps infamously, he introduced the Muslim travel ban, which banned travel from Muslim-majority countries so that would be places like Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. I don't think Saudi Arabia. Maybe they were included. Syria, Iraq, Libya, blah, blah, blah. So that was overturned by the courts. So that's what he did in his first week in 2017. But before I go on, I want to remind everyone what an executive order is. An executive order is signed by the president and that is used to manage federal government, and it has the force of law. These are not required to be approved by Congress. However, there are plenty of limitations. They're usually limited in scope. For example, they can't approve new funding. That's why Biden's was struck down in 2023. They struck down his student loan forgiveness, and they can be overturned by the next president, just like Biden overturned them in 2021, and they can be challenged by independent groups, civil liberties groups, Congress, whatever, corporations, whatever. They're very vulnerable to being defeated. What do we expect this time, 8 years later? Well, I expect very similar things. I expect on day one the formalization of cabinet nominations. That's easy. I expect a memorandum to withdraw from the World Health Organization, the hiring of tens of thousands of ICE agents, possibly a new Muslim ban, restoration of the Keystone XL pipeline, which at this point isn't really needed. It's been 8 years. I don't think we need it anymore. We have other pipelines like the Dakota Access. I expect another hiring freeze for civilian employees. That's something that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are probably proposing. And the restoration of the Mexico City policy that I already talked about that Biden canceled. That's just some of the day one stuff and perhaps week one stuff. I'll definitely do a separate podcast on what his first 100 days might look like. But I expect early on in the administration, the return of Remain in Mexico, the policy that requires asylum seekers to remain in Mexico while their claims are processed. Once again, this policy was rescinded by Biden in 2022. I also think early in his presidency, he will issue pardons for January 6, 2021 rioters. I highly doubt everyone will be pardoned, but I think most of them will be. Trump has called the rioters' convictions unfair, quote unquote, and Trump has said he is, quote, I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control, unquote. Special counsel Jack Smith is totally going to be fired, probably on day one, but it seems like he's going to resign before that happens. Perhaps what I'm most interested to see Trump achieve is on foreign policy. Trump has vowed to end the war in Ukraine on day one or sooner. We're still waiting. Day one is coming up very soon. Trump hasn't spoken to Putin since he left office 4 years ago, but as of the recording of this podcast and the public knowledge that we have, I imagine that they will speak very soon. They still haven't spoken. Trump has already spoken to Zelensky, according to reports, but it is unclear what they spoke about, and Zelensky himself has said that the 2025 is the year for peace. We will also have to see if there were going to be tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China. I doubt it, but at least for the case of Canada and Mexico, we'll see. As a reminder, he has vowed a 60% increase on Chinese goods, a 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods, and a 10% tariff across the board. That's just a few of the things the administration could implement on day one. Now, what cannot happen on day one? Or at least early on in the administration? Well, first of all, mass deportations. They're not going to begin immediately. We simply do not have the manpower to arrest, detain, try, convict, and deport tens of millions of illegal immigrants in this country. I know the official number is around 15 million, but I believe we're way higher than that, maybe 30 or 40. Anyway, I doubt this will get rid of all of those people. We're going to get rid of all those people. We're not even going to get rid of most of them in 4 years. I can guarantee it. Because we just don't have the infrastructure to do it, and that would have to be approved by Congress in a government spending bill. Luckily for Trump, government spending bill to approve government funding is up for review in March, because that's when the next government shutdown will happen. Anyway, tax cuts, that's another thing. I don't expect those to happen for a while. That'll probably be early on in the administration, probably in April or May, but we're still covered by the 2017 tax cuts law until they expire at the end of the year. He's also not going to be able to get grocery or energy prices down, either at all or definitely not in the beginning. We do not have a nationalized oil industry in this country. We don't have a nationalized agricultural industry in this country. So the president cannot compel companies to drill more or grow more because that's decided almost entirely by economics, not government policy. Anyway, I know the last two episodes have been a bit short, but that's all I got for now. Well, actually, there's one more thing I want to mention. Trump has talked about invading or taking over multiple countries, like going into Mexico to stop the drug cartels, to go making Canada join the United States, which I totally support, by the way, buying Greenland, and the Panama Canal Zone. So let me go over that. I almost forgot about this. Trump has said, let me bring this up. Yes, here we go. He posted a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago, he posted a picture, an AI picture of the U.S. flag in the Panama Canal, and he posted this on Truth Social. Welcome to the United States Canal. And then the Panamanian government said, every square meter of the Panama Canal belongs to Panama and will continue in the future to belong to Panama. And then Trump retruthed. He retruthed. We'll see about that. And then he called control of Greenland absolutely necessary. And then on Christmas Day, he tweeted, Merry Christmas to, he truthed to people. Merry Christmas to all, including the wonderful soldiers of China, who are lovingly but illegally operating in the Panama Canal, where we lost 38,000 people in building it 110 years ago. Making certain the United States put billions of dollars in repair money, but will have absolutely nothing to say about anything. Also, to Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high, but if Canada was to become our 51st state, their taxes would be cut by 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. Likewise, to the people of Greenland, which is needed by the United States for national security, who will want the U.S. to be there, and we will. And then he said some other, it kept going on, but I think that's enough. So that's going to be interesting. I think a lot of our countries are, especially our allies, like well, I don't know if I call Mexico an ally, but Canada and at least Panama, we are on decent terms with Panama and Canada, and I guess Greenland. This is very interesting where he's going. I'm interested to see where things are going here, and I know he's bullied Europe in the past. One thing I'll throw out there is that a lot of people, including myself, have said that Europe should pay more to defend Ukraine. But as I've kind of hinted at, European economies are not doing that well. European governments really can't afford to spend more on defense. They are, but they're having trouble balancing their books, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So really, in order to keep defending Ukraine, we need to keep paying. Is that worth it? If you ask me, I don't know. I lean toward no, and I'm not a Russian puppet. I'm just saying, I tend to think that this war needs to end, and it's been almost 3 years. But I don't want to get sidetracked. So that is everything I have to say. It's going to be an interesting 4 years. I'm very excited. I'm definitely going to be covering at least the first part of it. So thank you for tuning in. That's all I have for this episode. And be sure to be back next week, which will be just a week before the inauguration of the new president. And I will update you with anything that happened in Congress. So thank you for listening, and bye-bye.